I'm so excited to be here today, you guys. And it's interesting, I've been a clinical hypnotherapist and done my life coaching work for probably over 40 years or so, using different modalities. And it was most recently that I was speaking with Corinne and Werner, and they were like, "You've never really talked about your hypnotherapy work." I'm like, okay, here we go. So let's talk about the power of your beliefs. So you've all heard that you are what you believe, your thoughts are powerful, you create your reality through your thinking, right? Have you all heard that? Right. So what does this all mean? You know, you might say, well, if my beliefs create my reality, well, gee, I'll just change my beliefs. Have you ever tried that? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. So on a conscious level, you make a decision to change some of these beliefs and habits, and initially you might experience some success, right? I've done that where I'm going, this is it, I'm not eating any chocolate anymore, that's it, too much, I'm done. And I'm good for about a week until somebody's waving some good dark chocolate in front of me and it's like, okay. So you might have some success for a short period of time. But if you don't go into the subconscious mind, where all the beliefs, all the behaviors, all the patterns, all of those things are stored, you're only going to change those behaviors and patterns for a short period of time. So you have to get into the subconscious mind to do the real work. So I'll give you some examples. So I talked about, chocolate, that's my confession to you guys. You decide that you want to stop eating sugar. You decide that you want to stop doing something that just is no good for you anymore, right? And then we're talking here, you're saying, yes, I got this, I'm going to change this habit. We go into the social hall, and there's all that stuff staring you right in the face. What do? You go for it, right? 99% of the time, that's what happens. So this happens whenever we're trying to change a habit, a behavior, or belief without going into the filing system. I like to refer to this as a hard drive or a filing room. But some of the younger people remind me that there's no such thing anymore. There's not a filing room. Back in the day, I used to work in offices and I had to file things, right? Now it's the hard drive. So our subconscious mind, or that hard drive, is taking in information from the moment of birth. And depending on what you believe, even before that, they're now proving that what parents are talking about, what people are saying around a pregnant mother, that the child is picking up that information. And they're scientifically proving that now. So if Werner would like to, I have a model I want to share with you guys. I'm very visual, and so I think this would help you understand what is actually happening in the conscious and subconscious mind. So 1, 2, 3. If I do this, will it come down?
Yes, it did.
Thank you.
Coming down.
Oh, you mean I couldn't just point and make it have them? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'm excited because I get to be the guinea pig today to try out our new system. So while we're doing this now, are there a lot of thoughts going through your mind? Right? Yes, right? Exactly. So we're going to talk about exactly that in just a moment. Is it coming? There you go. Okay. So while Werner's pulling that up, I'm going to skip and go down to some studies that have been done. Can you guys guess how many thoughts go through your mind daily? Does anybody have a guess?
20
It's more like 600,000 thoughts go through your mind on a daily basis. Can you guys all see that? Okay, is the stand blocking your view? Are you guys good with this? Okay, we can move the stand for a minute so you can see it.
Yeah, it's better. It's better.
So initially I went to college to become a therapist. And then I went to school for about 1.5 to 2 years to actually get into the study of clinical hypnotherapy. I was just fascinated with how people went to therapy for 2 or 3 years, and sometimes within 6 months or less, doing some clinical hypnotherapy work, they were able to move through some of their issues and challenges, right? And again, that's because they were going into the subconscious mind where everything is stored and changing it at that level. So as you can see, the conscious mind is about 10%, right? 10% of our mind. It analyzes, thinks, and plans, and also short-term memory is in the conscious mind. Now, years ago, almost 30-something years ago, when I was in school, they had a percentage for the critical mind, which they called a filter. So I don't see it in this particular chart. But there was like a filter, which means you take in information in the conscious level, it goes through that filter, and then goes into the subconscious mind where it is stored. Now, I know, and I think, and I have practiced this on many, many clients, is that in order to get someone to drift down from all the thoughts swirling around in their mind into the subconscious and to relax, you bypass the critical mind, or you bypass the filter. And so I'll give you guys a little example at the end as to how that happens. So in the subconscious mind, you can see that it's 90%, right? There is long-term memory, all emotions and feelings, habits, relationship patterns, addictions, involuntary body functions, creativity, developmental stages, and spiritual connection and intuition. So we won't talk about this today, but now everyone, most scientists are talking about the superconscious, which is even beyond all of this that we're talking about here today. So as you look at that chart, it can give you a better idea of how and what happens when we have beliefs, when we have patterns and behaviors that we are trying to change. Does it make sense now that you look at this, that you can see you would want to go into the hard drive, right? Into the subconscious mind and make the change from there, because then it's more permanent. So our subconscious mind accepts, by the way, everything that goes through the conscious mind. So on the conscious level, we're using our 5 senses. We're out there in the world, we're experiencing life, and whatever we take in on the conscious level, it is getting filed. Now, we may forget. We may have, something go by us, a view of something, even when you're watching TV, or somebody just says something and passing by. Guess what? All of that is filed in the subconscious mind somewhere. You may not recall it or remember it, but it is in there. So supposedly, most of the time it goes through that filter and then gets filed, right? And our subconscious, like I said, accepts whatever we say, think, and believe as true. And it files it away for future reference. So what this means is that from the moment of birth, everything you've ever heard as a child, as an adult, right now, everything that you've ever heard goes into the subconscious mind and it accepts it as true. So you guys know that I'm very open-minded and I will share with you anything that I've been through, right? Well, almost anything. And so as a child, my mother was not available all the time. And I didn't think much about it because she was loving, I loved her, we had a great relationship. But as an adult, throughout my adult life, I started going into relationships with friends, with lovers, just relationships in general. And suddenly I realized that I was feeling this feeling of abandonment when someone wasn't there or wasn't available, and I couldn't figure out why until I finally practiced this on myself. And I started journaling, I started meditating, going into my subconscious mind, and I was able to pinpoint exactly when that feeling and emotion that was stored in here began, and when it began to even have an effect on me. So that's just one, right? A lot of us have not just feelings of abandonment, but we sometimes feel like a victim. We feel we're not good enough. How dare I even try this in life, right? So everything that you're experiencing, every emotion and every feeling came from this information that's stored in your subconscious mind. So, food for thought, right? So also, when we fall asleep, by the way, the conscious mind goes to sleep. Guess which one is awake 24/7? Or subconscious. Or subconscious, right? Because that is also taking care of all the involuntary, body functions as well. So our breathing, everything like that, occurs from the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind loves automatic behavior. That's why when we do something enough times, it goes, oh wow, you like doing that. You like eating chocolate. You like smoking a cigarette. Or you like getting angry. Or you like having this belief, etc., etc. And so I am just going to do that, and that will become your automatic behavior and pattern, right? So over the years, having worked with people that had addictions, one of the things that they began to realize is that their behaviors, and I'll use an example as someone smoking cigarettes, they didn't realize that they would get stressed out about something, reach into their pocket, pull out a cigarette, light it, and start smoking it automatically without thinking about it. And this is why we need to come back into the conscious level and go, wow, what am I doing? But if you don't go into that filing system and change it there, it's not going to change. So, as I was saying, the subconscious mind, even when you're asleep, is alert, is working 24/7. So that's why sometimes, have you guys ever had an experience where, maybe you're falling asleep, drifting into sleep, and there's still people standing in the corner, maybe having a conversation, maybe it's your own family, or even dreams. And then the next morning you wake up and you go, hey guys, were you guys talking about me last night? Were you saying you were going to go have pizza while I was asleep? Oh, by the way, I had this weird dream, and I was running down the road, and then this helicopter came. In other words, my point is that you can only share bits and pieces, right? Because it didn't go through the process of the conscious mind. It just went right into the subconscious and got filed in there. And now it's like pieces of a puzzle, and you're trying to figure out, wow, what was that dream about last night? So the point is that you don't want to have some things automatically just get filed in there without processing it, without using logic, without using common sense, right? And then you get to choose. Wow, this feels good. This is a good behavior. I'm going to file that in the hard drive. No, that doesn't feel good. I don't want that. So you can make the decision if you're in awareness of what is going into the subconscious. But I'm here to tell you that as children, we don't think about that. We just hear what our parents are saying. We hear what the people around us are saying, and it gets filed in there. Okay. So I already talked to you about, believing that because information and dreams don't get past the conscious mind, it gets filed in there into these little, bits and pieces of information. So as you can see, the best way to change anything is to go into subconscious mind. And I want to share with you something. I mean, thank goodness it's 2023. And when people ask me about hypnotherapy, they don't say, oh, by the way, are you going to do this to me and, make me bark like a dog? You're only going to bark like a dog if you want to. So as a matter of fact, I'll explain that to you. So I don't do stage hypnosis. But the reason that works, and it does work, is because the person will say, anyone in the audience would like to volunteer to come up here, and whoever raises their hands, it means that they are already open, that they are suggestible. And so that person is going to hear and do everything that the person is directing them to. So no, the work that I do, I work with doctors, I've worked with patients who are going into surgery, and just over the years, working with people to help change some of these feelings and emotions and beliefs that affect us. Another thing I want to touch on that I didn't actually write down here, but all of our emotions and feelings are also stored somewhere in our body. And that's why, even though it's stored in the subconscious mind, we might have gut issues, we might have back pain, we might have some discomfort in our bodies. And 99.5% of the time, when we can figure out what the emotion is that's stored in that place, we can help eliminate some of that. So, very, very important, I think, to know that whenever you're having something going on in your physical body, just check in and see what emotion is behind that. What are you feeling? What are you thinking about? So just a little food for thought there. As I said, the spiritual connection and intuition also comes from that part of our mind. And again, they're now said that the superconscious takes us even further into that spiritual realm. So I know you guys have heard Deepak Chopra and others came up with the idea of if you want to change a habit or create a new habit, you do it 21 times, right? In other words, right, at least 21 times. Sometimes maybe more, depending, right? But I always tell people, when you want to get physically fit, do you go to the gym once? Do you run around the block one time? No, right? It's something that you have to do consistently. And after a while, what happens is, like, I've been working out my whole life. I exercise all the time. I meditate every day. I try to eat well, so I try to follow all that guidance, right? But it didn't happen overnight. I just made a decision that this is the path I wanted to take, and so I started exercising, meditating, and paying attention to what I put in, into my body. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is that it was a struggle at first. The first time I sat down and said, okay, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to drop into my subconscious, into my heart center, I'm going to change some of the stuff that I've been dealing with forever. Nothing happened. I mean, there was those 600,000 thoughts swirling around in my head, right? But I sat down the next day and I had a timer for 5 minutes. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this again. And I did that continuously, and all of a sudden, I sat down one day and I just dropped into that stillness, into that meditative state, and I was able to give myself some suggestions that helped me change some things I wanted to change. The point is, you have to be consistent. You have to be persistent. So the other thing that I tell my clients is that, okay, great. Now that we've figured out where all of this stuff comes from, all these habits and behaviors and things you're trying to change, all these beliefs you no longer want. Now that we've got that figured out, you don't get to go home and just say, okay, I'm good now. Now you get to take action, right? So, understanding, knowing something, acknowledging something, and then taking the right action is what makes the change. Okay, I want to share a couple of things, and I'm going to read, there's a handout that I put together so that you guys can hopefully use this as a reminder. Yeah, we can pull it up.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Was that helpful, you guys, to be able to look at this?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Made sense, right? Now you know what's going on when you're having all these thoughts every day and where it's going. So while Corinne is handing out the handout, if you will, I wanted to make a suggestion that one of the things I found very, very powerful in being able to make some of these changes is adding something physical to the intention. So for instance, one of the things I suggest with my clients is to wear a rubber band on their wrist. And that throughout the day, if they find themselves having that negative belief, or they're wanting to do the same old habit that they're trying to change, to snap the band and say, I don't do this anymore. Just snap the band and say, I don't do this anymore. And I guarantee you, when you add that physical thing with the intention, you'll make the change. Another easy one that I suggest is that, every time you want to reach for that sugar or whatever it is you're deciding you want to give up, grab a bottle of water and drink. And if you do that 21 times, all of a sudden you won't even care about the old habit and pattern and behavior. So, are we moving this back?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to read this very quickly and then do a very short taking you into stillness. I promise not to do anything like this and make you do anything you don't want to do. Now if you bark like a dog, if you stand up and dance, it's on you, not me. So some tools to help you change your programming. The best way to begin to change is to just ask your subconscious mind, are you willing to help me? Once you receive an affirmative response, then ask, please give me advice that will be helpful to me. So I'll share something personal with you guys. One of the things I do, and it works, is whenever I have old thoughts and patterns and behaviors coming up, I just say, stop. And as soon as I say stop, that thought, all of that stuff just stops, and I have a few seconds to now say something positive or do something positive. So talking out loud to yourself is okay. They might take you away somewhere for a little bit, but So another routine that I have in the mornings that I find that work is, what do I need to know right here, right now? That helps you set your pattern for the day. Also, just before you go to sleep is the best time to give yourself positive suggestions. Because when you sleep, your subconscious is free from the interference of daily life and can more easily accept a suggestion. It's like I was saying earlier, when you're standing here thinking and processing things and you're going, okay, I'm not gonna do this anymore. There's just too many things interfering. But at nighttime is the best time to give yourself a suggestion.